Hey everyone, I'm Curtis, co-founder of WhaleSync, which is a product that lets you manage your Webflow CMS from other tools like Airtable or Notion. And I'm here today to talk a little bit about some cool things that you can do with the Webflow API. But first, let me just give a quick introduction. I'm from St. Petersburg, Florida. Shout out to the awesome Webflow group in St. Pete. My co-founder, Matthew Bucell, and I started WhaleSync mostly because we were working with freelancers who were working with tools like Webflow and Airtable, and they really wanted an easier way to manage the CMS. So we decided to build this. And in building this, as a software developer, I interacted with the Webflow API a bunch and discovered some really cool things that you can do with it. So with that, as for an agenda, I'm going to talk about a couple different kinds of things that you can do with the Webflow API. First off is more just fun things that you may or may not actually find useful, but I think that they're pretty funny. Secondly, some pretty useful things that you can do, especially as like one-off sorts of things. And then lastly, end-to-end use cases that the Webflow API actually unlocks that is more difficult to do if you're not using the API and connecting Webflow with other tools. So with that, I'll start off with some of the fun ones. OK, so first off, you may know that if you are on the free plan of Webflow, you can't add HTML embeds to your site. The Webflow UI prevents you from doing that. However, you do have access to the API. So you can very much just get around that by sending the Webflow API any HTML that you want, and it will actually work. It shows up right on the site. So I'm going to demo that real quick. Over here, I'm using a tool called Postman. It's super helpful to test and interact with APIs if you haven't used it before. And then I have a test Webflow site with one CMS item. I have some plain text in here, rich text, but it just says boring tuna right now. And I cannot add any HTML. However, if I use the API, I can add some fancy HTML that basically adds whatever I want. It even includes scripts. So I'm going to go ahead and send that to that rich text element, that CMS item. And if I refresh the page here, it actually turns it into a button that you can interact with. And I even sent it a script to input, this guy is such a hack at the bottom there. That's the first one. I think that's just mostly pretty fun. So you can totally get around HTML embeds. The second one is, did you know that you are unable to send images to Webflow that are larger than 4 megabytes? Webflow actually prevents you from doing that. This is true, mostly true, even with the API. However, you can get around that with, not that you ever should, you really should not be sending 10 gigabyte images to your Webflow site. No one's going to have a good time there. But if you need to do that, you can use object or embed tags in a rich text CMS element. And then Webflow will not complain. So just to kind of demonstrate that, basically over here I have a CMS item where I have some image fields, a big image, and then I have a rich text field called big image hack, and I have nothing in them right now. And then over here in Postman, first off, I'm just going to try sending a very large image to the big image field. And it's not going to work. I'm going to send that over. Webflow doesn't complain. It just doesn't work. It just silently fails. So if I refresh the page, it's not going to be there. Also, if I try and send it an image tag in the rich text field, it's also not going to work because Webflow is going to try and rehost that image. So if I send that, it's going to give an error, bad request, not going to work. However, I'll just change that back over to an embed tag, send it, and Webflow's happy. It didn't try and rehost the image, and if I refresh the page, it's going to load a big tuna. All right. So that's it for the just fun ones. Next, for ones that you may actually find useful in your work, how many of you have tried to delete a large number of Webflow CMS items that had reference fields, especially ones that all reference each other? You may have encountered this error message before, where Webflow is just like, sorry, you cannot pass go, you cannot collect $200. You're going to be spending the next 12 hours of your life going through CMS items and removing reference fields. Well, turns out if you just use a script to use, and that interacts with the CMS through the Webflow API, you can do this much more easily. A script especially that clears all the reference fields first in a set of CMS items and then goes ahead and deletes those items. So we had a little script internally at WhaleSync that did this, but we've gone ahead and open sourced that script. So in case that is useful, you can go ahead and download that on GitHub and delete thousands of items to your heart's content. I'm not going to run it here because it's going to take, it's going to take a while, but it is there for you if you so choose. Next is, did you know that you can add formula fields to Webflow? So let's say that you're using Webflow e-commerce and you have some products that you're selling and you want to price those products based off of some sort of daily base rate, and you're applying a markup. Well, you can't do that just in vanilla Webflow because there are no formula fields. But if you use the API and hook up Webflow to something like Airtable that does have formula fields, then you can effectively add formula fields to your site. So I'll just demonstrate that real quick over here. So back on this Webflow site, I have e-commerce set up with a couple of different kinds of fish. And then I have this connected to Airtable via WhaleSync, but you can use many tools. And over here, I have the price of tuna, and I want to update that. Tuna just went way up in price; it went to $10. So now this formula field is going to apply a 20% markup if Airtable decides to do it. There we go. And then in a couple of seconds, that's going to be reflected over here in Webflow again. So let's just go ahead and refresh that page. Oh, wow. OK. Yeah, man. I'm lost. Oh, goodness. Where's everything? Here we are. There we are. So tuna has now been updated to $12. So formula fields, yay. There you go. All right. And then lastly, I just want to go over a couple of really cool end-to-end use cases that demonstrate the power of Webflow when you actually want to create data-driven websites. And that can largely be powered through the API. So one thing would be authoring and managing a bunch of blog posts. So if you've authored blog posts in Webflow, you know that you can author them in this tiny little text box for rich text, but if you're authoring long-form content, might be suboptimal to do it all within there. However, if you just use the API to connect it to a tool like Notion, where you can author easily very long-form content, it can make it a lot easier. So over here, I have a Notion setup that is basically serving as a headless CMS for Webflow. And then here is one of the pages. Let's see here. OK, cool. How to choose the best. Best kinds of tuna. All right. And likewise, everything in here is synced to Webflow itself. And then over here in Webflow, just refresh, we can see that we're actually using Notion to basically manage our Webflow blog. So that's one. Let's skip past that. Another one is, has anyone heard of account-based marketing? Okay, maybe a few people. Basically, it's a really cool way to personalize content for a lead list. So for example, let's say you have an email campaign, you're targeting a bunch of people, and you want to make it, look like you've put a lot of thought and effort into the people and the companies that you're reaching out to. So you want to generate a custom landing page for every single contact that you're reaching out to. That's going to be a lot of work if you do it one by one in Webflow manually. But if you do it in a more data-driven way, like using Airtable as kind of the back end for that, and then you create landing pages for every single contact, then boom, you can run an email campaign that has a unique link for everyone, and it looks super professional. That you can do with the API, so super cool. So here I have basically a list of leads that I'm targeting, and then over here I have a landing page that's specific to that, a landing page that's specific to every single contact in there. And then lastly, this is kind of my favorite one. Everybody's talking about AI these days and how to generate content with AI, and Webflow's added some really cool features within the product itself. But the thing, if you're using the API and if you're managing a lot of data at scale, then it can still be difficult to hook AI tools into that. So if you use something like Airtable to call OpenAI and then use specific prompts to generate content for pages, you can do this in a very scalable way that is powered through the API. So over here, I have a Webflow site, and I have landing pages. Basically, in this example, I have a rental company that has properties in a ton of different cities across the world. And I want a specific page for every single one of those cities. I don't want to write the copy for that. I just need some lightly personalized copy for every single city that I have properties in. And you can use AI to do that. So over here, I have a prompt that I'm going to feed into OpenAI, and I have a description field, and then I have a little script that calls OpenAI and basically populates every single one of these. So if I just go ahead and run that, it's creating short summaries for every single location that I have. If OpenAI goes a little faster, that'd be great. I don't know why it only did the first one, but I'll come back to that in a second. The first one is kind of all we need for the demo. And if I refresh the page, now we have that AI-generated content right here on the page. So there we are. Now it's coming in. You can see it come in one by one. So, all right. So, in summary, if there's one takeaway I would love everyone to have after this talk, it's that you can unlock really powerful data-driven websites using the Webflow API, especially when you connect it to other tools that work really well with Webflow. So definitely keep getting ideas and try it out. It's super cool. We love the API over here. So thank you so much.